The day my boyfriend left me alone in a hospital gown, 7 months pregnant and shaking, I thought the worst pain I'd feel was labor. I was wrong. He didn't just walk out of the ward, he walked out of our future. No explanation. No goodbye kiss. Just a cold message and an empty chair beside my bed. I remember staring at the door, waiting for him to come back. He never did. But 10 minutes after he disappeared, a nurse slipped into my room, closed the curtain quietly, and placed a sealed file into my trembling hands. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and broken promises. I was sitting upright in the narrow bed, one hand protectively resting over my swollen belly, the other gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles had turned white. 7 months pregnant. High risk. The doctor had just finished explaining that my blood pressure was unstable and I would need to stay under observation. And Ryan, my boyfriend of 3 years, the father of my child, had been standing right there when the doctor said it. He didn't react. No panic. No concern. No questions. Just silence. "I'll grab coffee," he muttered, already halfway to the door. That was the last thing he said to me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Ryan had always been avoidant under pressure. When we first found out I was pregnant, he'd gone quiet for 2 days before hugging me and promising we'd figure it out. But something about the way he left felt different. Too fast. Too cold. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. I called him. Straight to voicemail. "Hey," I whispered when the beep came. "The doctor wants to talk about the baby's lungs. Can you come back?" No reply. Another hour passed. My chest tightened. The baby shifted inside me as if sensing my fear. Then my phone buzzed. A message. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm coming back." Just, "I can't do this anymore. Don't call me." I stared at the words, reading them over and over, hoping they would rearrange themselves into something less cruel. They didn't. I tried calling again. Blocked. 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 The room felt smaller. The walls pressed inward. My breathing became shallow. I could hear the heart monitor beside me speeding up in sync with my pulse. He left. He abandoned me. At the hospital. Pregnant with his child. The humiliation hit harder than the heartbreak. Nurses had seen him leave. The receptionist had smiled at us when we checked in together. Everyone knew I wasn't alone. And now I was. Tears slid down my temples into my hair. I kept replaying the last few weeks in my mind. Ryan had been distant. Taking calls outside. Guarding his phone. Saying work was complicated. I thought it was stress. I was wrong. A soft knock interrupted my spiral. A nurse stepped in. She looked to be in her late 30s, calm eyes, steady presence. Her name tag read, Nurse Elena Morales. "Your blood pressure is climbing," she said gently. "You need to breathe." "I'm fine," I lied. She didn't believe me. She closed the door behind her. Then, very deliberately, she pulled the privacy curtain across the glass wall of the room. My heart skipped. "That man who was with you," she said quietly. "Is he your husband?" "Boyfriend," I croaked. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I thought so." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "I wasn't supposed to say anything," she murmured. Every nerve in my body sharpened. "Please," I whispered. "I'm carrying his baby." She glanced toward the door again before reaching into the pocket of her scrub jacket. What she pulled out wasn't medical. It was a manila file folder. Sealed. My name wasn't on it. His was. Ryan Carter. My hands began to shake. "I work part-time in medical records," she said quietly. "Your boyfriend was here last week." The words hit like ice water. "Last week." I repeated. "For what?" She swallowed. "He wasn't alone." The baby kicked hard inside me. "Who is he with?" My voice sounded foreign. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she placed the file gently on the blanket over my lap. "I shouldn't be doing this," she said. "But I've seen too many women blindsided in this ward." My pulse roared in my ears. "What's in it?" "Information you deserve before you make any decisions about him." My fingers hovered over the seal. "I don't understand." Her eyes softened. "He registered here as the emergency contact for another patient." The room tilted. "Another patient?" I whispered. Elena nodded. "A woman. 6 months pregnant." Silence exploded between us. "No," I breathed. "That's not possible." She held my gaze steadily. "She listed him as the father." My entire body went cold. I stared at the file like it was a bomb. 2 pregnancies. 1 man. 1 hospital. The air left my lungs in a sharp, humiliating gasp. "Why are you telling me this?" I managed. Her expression changed. Because when I saw him walk out of your room just now, she said softly, I realized he's done this before. My vision blurred. Before. She came in crying too. A long, suffocating silence. The heart monitor beside me beeped louder, faster. Open it, Elena said gently. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were photocopies, admission forms, insurance details, ultrasound reports, and one photo clipped to the corner. Ryan, standing beside another woman in a hospital hallway, his hand on her belly, smiling. The same smile he gave me when we announced our pregnancy online. The date on the corner of the photo was from 3 days ago. 3 days. While I was at home folding baby clothes, planning our future, believing him. The humiliation turned into something darker, hotter, stronger, rage. But underneath it was something else. Confusion. Because as I flipped through the papers, one detail didn't make sense. The insurance policy listed under his name wasn't the one he had told me about. The employer on the form wasn't the company he claimed to work for. And the address registered wasn't ours. It wasn't even in the city. Elena, I said slowly, my voice shaking for a different reason now. This doesn't add up. She looked at the papers again. That's not all, she said quietly. My breath caught. What do you mean? She hesitated for one long second. Then she said the words that changed everything. There's another name connected to this file. My heart pounded in my throat. Whose? She looked me directly in the eyes. His legal wife. The world went silent. Not girlfriend. Not fiancé. Wife. My fingers tightened around the file as the pieces began to rearrange themselves into something far more terrifying than abandonment. Ryan hadn't just left me. He had lied about his entire identity. And suddenly, I wasn't just the abandoned girlfriend. I was the other woman. And I had no idea what kind of man I had just had a child with. I didn't cry after Elena said the word wife. I went numb. It was as if my body decided heartbreak could wait, because survival came first. Are you absolutely sure? I asked, my voice steady in a way that scared even me. Elena nodded slowly. Marriage certificate copy is in the back of the file. Different last name. Different address. Same man. I flipped to the final page. There it was. Ryan Carter. Married. 2 years. My hands stopped shaking. Something inside me hardened instead. Can you tell me her name? I asked. Elena hesitated, then pointed. Victoria Hale. The name meant nothing to me. But it would. Oh, Elena added carefully, she's not just any patient. I looked up. She's the daughter of Hale Industries CEO. The air shifted. Hale Industries was one of the largest private investment firms in the state. Billboards. Corporate towers. Charity galas. Power. Real power. And Ryan had told me he worked freelance marketing. My stomach turned. He doesn't work for a small agency, does he? I asked quietly. Elena shook her head. He's listed as an executive. Consultant under Hale Industries. Executive. Consultant. He hadn't just lied about a wife. He had lied about his entire life. And suddenly, something clicked. The expensive watch he claimed was a gift from a client. The weekend business trips. The way he insisted we avoid posting certain photos online. I wasn't a partner. I was a secret. And judging by that file, not the only one. 3 days later, I checked myself out of the hospital against medical advice. Not because I was reckless, but because I needed answers. I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. My college friend Daniel had built a reputation as a ruthless corporate litigator. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I called him and said I need help, he didn't hesitate. When I arrived at his office, 8 months pregnant, pale, holding that file, his expression shifted from surprise to fury within minutes. He what? Daniel's jaw tightened as he flipped through the documents. He married into money, I said quietly. And apparently collects pregnant women. Daniel exhaled sharply. You understand what this means, right? That I was stupid? That he committed fraud. My head lifted. Fraud. Daniel tapped the insurance form. If he listed false employment details, false dependents, and misrepresented marital status across accounts, that's legal exposure. Serious exposure. For the first time since the hospital, I felt something close to stability. Not revenge. Control. Can we prove it? I asked. Daniel's eyes sharpened. Oh, we can do more than that. The confrontation didn't happen in private. It happened at a charity gala. Hale Industries' annual foundation banquet. Victoria Hale was hosting. Ryan was listed as keynote speaker. Of course he was. Daniel arranged my entry as his guest. When I stepped into that ballroom, pregnant, dressed in a simple navy gown, my hand resting on my belly, the room shimmered with crystal chandeliers and designer smiles. And at the center of it all, Ryan. Perfect suit. Confident posture. Victoria at his side, glowing, one hand on her own visibly pregnant belly. They looked like a magazine cover. Until he saw me. His face drained of color. For a split second, I saw fear. Real fear. I walked forward slowly. Each step deliberate. Victoria noticed his reaction first. "Ryan?" she asked. He didn't answer. Because I was standing in front of them now. "Hi," I said calmly. Victoria smiled politely. "I'm sorry, do we?" "Yes," I said softly. "We share something." Ryan's voice cracked. "This isn't the place." "Oh," I replied. "I think it's perfect." The surrounding conversations began to quiet. Daniel appeared at my side like a shadow. "Miss Hale," he said smoothly, "I believe you deserve to see something." Ryan lunged slightly. "Don't." Too late. Daniel handed her copies of the file. I watched Victoria's confident expression slowly fracture as she read. Marriage certificate. Hospital records. Photographs. Insurance discrepancies. Her lips parted. Then she looked at me. "You're pregnant," she said faintly. 7 months, I replied. Her eyes dropped to my stomach. Then to Ryan. "Is this true?" Silence. That was his mistake. Silence. The room had gone completely still. Board members. Investors. Cameras from the charity press line. Everyone watching. "Ryan," she said again, sharper this time. He stammered. "It's complicated, is it?" "True." His shoulders collapsed. "Yes." The word detonated across the ballroom. Gasps erupted. Victoria swayed slightly but caught herself. "You told me she was an unstable client," she whispered. "You said she was harassing you." My heart slammed. He had framed me. Of course he had. Victoria's eyes filled not with weakness, with fury. "You used company funds to support her?" she demanded. Ryan froze. Daniel answered instead. "Yes. We have documentation of financial transfers and falsified expense reports." The CEO of Hale Industries, Victoria's father, had been standing near the stage. He was approaching now. Slow. Controlled. Deadly calm. "Ryan," he said quietly. "My office." "Now." Ryan looked at me once. Not with love. Not even with regret. But with something like realization. He had underestimated me. And now he was finished. 2 weeks later, Ryan was terminated from Hale Industries. Publicly. An internal audit exposed financial fraud and misuse of corporate accounts. Victoria filed for immediate separation. The company's legal team pursued charges. And me? I filed for child support and full custody before my daughter was even born. Daniel handled everything. Ryan tried to call once. Blocked. He sent a message apologizing. Ignored. Because apologies don't rebuild trust. They just reveal guilt. A month later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Daniel was there. Elena visited with flowers. When they placed my daughter in my arms, I didn't think about Ryan. I thought about strength. About survival. About truth. As I held her, Daniel leaned closer. "You know," he said softly, "you didn't just expose him." I looked up. "You exposed the system that protected him." I smiled faintly. Good. Outside the hospital window, the city skyline shimmered in the morning light. The same city where I was once abandoned. Now it looked different. Not because the world had changed, but because I had. I wasn't the girl waiting by the hospital bed anymore. I was the woman who walked into a ballroom and burned down a lie. And as my daughter curled her tiny fingers around mine, I whispered a promise. No one walks away from us again. This time, I was the one in control. And for the first time since that hospital door closed behind him, I felt peace.